how do you, and I'll start with you, Kyle, how do you discuss the soybean checkoff with livestock farmers, especially when livestock prices are low and grain prices are high?
Mm-hmm. That's a fair question. You know, as agriculturalists, we all know that we're in this boat together, and to have an idea that there aren't soybean farmers feeding cattle or hogs or anything like that is just completely not the case. You know, farming spans such a wide swath in Missouri and across the country that we are sensitive to the needs of our partners, and livestock really is our number one customer when it comes to soybean meal. So these sorts of things are important, and what we look at are ways also to increase the value of the soybean oil. And so what that does is when we strengthen the price of the oil, it becomes a carrier then for the price of the soybean. And when you can drive the value of that oil up, conversely, it's going to bring down the price of the meal relative to the price of soybeans, so that it does continue to be a very cost-effective and high-quality feed ingredient, both for you know, to our terrestrial animals here in Missouri, but also in growing places like aquaculture in the U.S. and in Southeast Asia.
Do either of you, Tim or Justin, do you have something you would like to add?
I think that, you know, we all know that we're in a supply and demand market, and, you know, there's times that there seems to be a shortage of soybeans, and, you know, prices are going to start to try to regulate the usage, and the same will come the day for beef. I mean, their markets will go up. We're not against each other, you know. We're just trying to meet the demand.
Anything?
I think they've covered.
Got it covered? Okay. Well, then I'm going to jump on to the next question. What about the checkoff makes you uncomfortable, and how do you resolve that? And I'll start with you, Kyle.
What makes me uncomfortable about the checkoff?
Or do you just love everything about it?
Oh, absolutely, Cindy. You know, I think a lot of maybe heartburn, and perhaps this is too broad a generalization, you know, across the countryside, is something that we touched on before. You know, that it's not something that producers are actively opting into right now like they did once upon a time. That is tough. I mean, because there becomes a certain perception with that. But we also have to think back to when the checkoff first came about, and the reason that producers saw the value in assessing the checkoff the way that we do in the state and across the country. And that is that the programs supported by the checkoff are impactful for everyone, right? And so it's not you know, on a membership basis where some would pay the freight for all. This is truly all of the soybean producers in the state coming together as a team and achieving those common goals that we all have.
Anything that Justin or Tim that you would like to add? Anything about the checkoff make you uncomfortable?
I don't know that I personally become uncomfortable, but through the years of farming that I've been in it, then you'll see many times people look at their tickets and they see a dock, and whether it be a test weight dock or you know, moisture dock or whatever it might be, and they're like, well, they took that from us. You know, if there's anything uncomfortable, the checkoff is just another little dab that they're taking out, and they feel like it's, you know, taking it out of their pocket. That would be the only thing that I don't really hear the complaint, but it would be something that's, you know, you think about a little bit.
One concern that it's not a concern about the checkoff, it's a concern for the checkoff more, is, you know, it's more, you know, in neighboring states we've seen a lot of conflict inside the soybean industry over traits, herbicide traits. And that has actually kind of spilled over into the type of research that is being done, and research being criticized because you're researching with certain traits and you're not researching with other traits. And that's something that I worry about in the future, that if we can't resolve some of this conflict in the industry, that it would get out of control, because there's organizations that want to defund certain organizations for doing research with those traits. And that's a concern.
Which leads me into another question. Are there some more interesting or challenging questions or comments about the soybean checkoff that you have heard from other farmers, or maybe not from other farmers, maybe from consumers, maybe from a neighbor that doesn't farm? Any of you?
I have had opportunity while I've been on this board to travel on behalf of the soybean farmers of the state, and sometimes you get asked about that. Why? What are you doing going to Vietnam, for example? And it's really an opportunity to share the story of where Missouri soybeans are going. It's not just that I haul them to the elevator and that's the end of the process. I mean, these beans are shipping both locally and across the globe, and a lot of those business relationships are made person to person and face to face. It really is, even on a global scale, a lot of it is very personal. And excuse me, to be able to represent the farmers of the state of Missouri to somebody abroad is a tremendous responsibility and opportunity. We've had opportunity to host trade delegations on our own farm for the same reason. That when we continue to open and embrace that dialogue, ultimately good things come for the farmers of the state.
Anybody else?
You would be, I've been with Kyle on a couple of these trips, and you'd be surprised how, in meeting with individuals that use soybeans, how they would really like to buy from you. And that's really amazing to me, to think that I'm just a Missouri soybean farmer, and if there was a way they could buy directly from you, they would do it in a heartbeat. And that's only because we're able to get over with our checkoff dollar and promote, and it just makes it more global, and it was shocking to me.
It also gives us the opportunity to hear from those international partners what logistical challenges they see in being able to get our product from our Missouri farms. So if it's a pinch point somewhere in the supply chain, then we have identified that, and through the checkoff we can start to address those market access issues, whether it's a governmental barrier of some kind or a logistics problem. Sometimes just being able to voice the problem and to see the real-time impacts of it can be invaluable.
Did you have something you want? Do you feel like other farmers in the state of Missouri, soybean farmers in the state of Missouri, understand that, have a sense of that, and the importance of those relationships?
I would never undersell the farmers of the state of Missouri. They are some of the smartest people that I have ever known. But I think that it is hard to really conceptualize the whole picture. And I'm not saying that I even have that perfect and clear vision. I know when I came onto the board that the amount of information that comes at you in such a short amount of time is, the phrase we use is drinking from the fire hose. And that really is, you try to kind of coalesce all of these different pieces that are coming from from different areas. So yes, it's difficult even as a board member to sometimes put all the moving pieces together, and certainly if you don't kind of live in that space, as we do as board members, it's more challenging. And so that's why it's incumbent on us as board members and as checkoff representatives to visit with farmers in our own districts, in our backyards, in our neighborhoods, to share these success stories and share what the Merchandising Council is doing and why we're doing it.
I ask you about farmers. I want to talk a little bit about non-farmers, consumers. They drive by that nice new Soy Innovation Center in Jefferson City and say, wow, those soybean farmers must have a lot of money. So how do you answer that, or help them to understand what that building is and does? And Tim, do you want to start?
Well, I mean, you're going to get a little bit from Tim here. I think it's better than driving down the street and seeing a little soybean shack that looks like there's not $10 in that whole industry. Seeing a nice building there that is promoting, like, this is an industry. It is being pushed, and it does create dollars and jobs, and we're all part of that. So that's how I see it. Now, I don't hear anything negative, but maybe there is. I don't.
How do you adequately showcase Missouri's #1 cash crop? I mean, it just as a point of fact. I mean, soybeans are the #1 cash crop in the state of Missouri, both in acreage and in value. And so when we look at the entire life of soy, which is what the Center for Soy Innovation is, it's all the way from the research that goes into the genetics in that soybean, through seed treatment and soil studies and climate and all those, everything that it goes into raising a crop. Then the harvesting of that crop, the processing, and all the numerous ways that a soybean gets split, after it goes through an elevator. And then all the new uses that come out of soybean. It's so expansive. The Center for Soybean Innovation is too small. Folks don't realize how soy impacts their daily life on a daily basis, nearly as much as it truly does. And so when you see something like the Center for Soybean Innovation, it's the farmers of the state and the soybean industry saying, you know what, we work hard and we are proud of the product that comes off of our farms, and the time and the money that's been invested into that crop, both the crop on our field and the industry as a whole, to really put farmers first and make Missouri soybean farmers the best that they really can be.
Justin, as chairman of the research committee, the Soy Innovation Center really showcases some of that work. So
sure, it's we have a lot of hardworking staff there, and it's a great location and a great facility that we can not just allow our staff to work there, but also bring in groups to educate, bring in kids to tell the story of soybeans and to tell the story about our impact in the state of Missouri, and from everybody from our children to state legislators.
What is the greatest lesson, and I want each of you to answer this, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned since becoming a leader on the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council? And we'll just start with whoever goes first.
I'll go. I think the greatest lesson I've learned is to realize that I think most all of us farmers go to work every day, and we live in this small little hometown and our farm, and that is all we know, that's all we do. And to be able to get outside of that and stand up on a ship that holds millions of bushels, that you had a part in that, and that it's much bigger than just your little farm. It's part of a whole global market, and it makes you proud. But without being involved, you don't see any of that, and you just stay in your little circle. So that's what it's done for me.
On my first year on the board here, I've been very impressed with the commitment and the engagement of the other board members, and how much they passionately care about the industry and the future direction of this checkoff program. And just the diversity of opinions that you get from soybean farmers. It's amazing how diverse the opinions can be and how diverse the state actually is. And that we still come together and drive in one direction at the end of the day.
I think that I would hope anyway that new board members as they come on see is that really at the core of everything we do is the question, how does this impact the Missouri soybean farmer? Because that, at the end of the day, that's the one constituent that we're completely focused on, and rightfully so. So you know, it's a matter of reiterating that at the beginning of every meeting, if that's what it takes. You know, we have a very clear and concise mission and vision for this organization. And those statements are read at the beginning of every board meeting, and for good reason, because the Missouri soybean farmer truly is who we are focused on improving.
Is there anything that you wish someone would have told you before you became a leader or a member of this council?
Well, I think they told me that it's only just a couple meetings and a couple days a year investment.
Same thing I did.
Yeah, only 3 meetings a year.
Yeah.
But it's like anything, Cindy. You know, when you find something that you truly care about and that you are passionate about, and we are so tremendously fortunate to currently have 13 folks from across the state that share that same passion, and numerous previous and past board members that shared that same passion for service to their fellow producer. That you know, sometimes you overlook the time commitment that it really takes, or you don't overlook at it, but you can understand and appreciate why it's important to invest that time.
Tim, Justin, anything you wish you would have known before becoming a leader on the council?
Still learning.
Good answer.
Still learning.
Yeah, there's never an end to the learning on this board, ever.
How important do you feel educating consumers or other farmers about soybeans is? At what point do you put that? You know, Robert said that was a number one want.
It's very high. It's very high. Our need to educate our consumers, to get our story out there, is growing every day, because there are other people willing to tell a story that might not be the story that we agree with, and we need to make sure that the sustainable work that our Missouri soybean producers are doing, the way that we steward the land, the way that we steward the water, and the way that we work for the future generations to be able to continue on behind us, which is what we're all working for, that we can share that message, which is very important.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think that I can take my youngest daughter and put her in a combine and cut soybeans all day long, and she will never mention a soybean at all when she goes home. But she can go to the Innovation Center and come home and show me things that she's seen there, and that's part of the education. You know, they see it, they're around other kids, and to me, that's the value. You know.
So it's not just a consumer, somebody that lives in Kansas City. it's people that live in rural America that can benefit as well.
Definitely.
Anything
Yeah,
else
I
you'd like
think,
to say?
the goal and kind of the core concept of the center and the exhibits that are in there is being able to tailor and adapt those to different audiences. So, in a single day, you might have a third grade class from Montrose come through in the morning, and by noon, you're hosting business professionals from the Chamber of Commerce, maybe, that have come through for a tour, and by the end of the day, maybe your legislators from down the street at the Capitol or staff from the Department of Agriculture are in the building, and each of those groups values a different part of the message of the life of soy that we're telling in that building. And so, the key point then is to be nimble and to have those exhibits speak in a way to each of those individual groups that they're able to extract value out of that interaction.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for putting it all out there on this panel today. I know some of those questions were a little tough to answer, but you never know when someone's going to corner you in the local coffee shop, and you need to be prepared to answer that. So hopefully we help prepare for that.
Yeah, Cindy, thank you too for the opportunity. And if there are any farmers that are watching this video and would like to know more about any of the things that we've spoken about, certainly you can visit us at mosoy.org. We publish an annual research report that outlines all the different research projects funded by Farmers Checkoff Investments. We really want to be forthcoming and transparent with that and make that available because it is the farmers' research that's going on. And certainly, if you have opportunity to make it to Jeff City, come visit us at the Center for Soybean Innovation, and we'd love to share that story.